you ever heard of dry pour concrete? Or have you ever wanted to try a dry pour? Learn how to avoid the biggest pitfalls and learn from our mistakes.
Hello folks.
Hey guys, we are out here
at the original #1 dry pour.
And basically we are just going to update our circumstances and what we have learned in a few dry pours so far, and that would be, we have about 5 critical tips that we have learned firsthand for success or failure. And the first one would be
location.
Yes.
Critically important in my opinion.
Yeah, we found that out firsthand.
Because this one right here that we did a year and a half ago?
2.5 years ago. In spring of 2023, we did this dry pour slab here in front of our cellar. And so that first one, talking about location, I would say that is going to be dependent upon mostly sun or shade.
Yeah.
What do you think?
This one right here is full sun almost all day. So.
Right. This slab has held up really well. There were a few little top blemishes when we actually did it. You can just see that the top powder, powdery film, it actually kind of bubbled and scuffed off in a couple of little places right off the bat. But it's never.
It did it here and it did it at the new place.
It's never gotten any worse. So, but other than that, and other than maybe the edges getting nicked by the mower, you know, the edges are a little rough. We're not 100% sure if it was all from just abuse from the lawnmower.
I'm pretty sure it's all mower because I run the mower. So,
but there are no cracks in this slab at all. Okay, so we are still showing the location, how it matters. We are full shade over here.
Yeah.
I would say this pour is the example of if you're not aware of the critical steps, then this is what can happen. Because this pour did not come out as good as the other pour did the first time. And there's a lot of reasonings for that. But number one is because of the location, the shade, and that brought on a lot of things that
the curing process
that we didn't anticipate.
Yeah. And this slab here that we did is not quite twice the depth.
The other slab that we did in front of the cellar, it was 2 inches?
At the most. Yeah.
We actually laid the 2x4s on their sides.
Yeah.
We wanted this one deeper because we were actually trying to fill a space where the step was not super high going into the coop for me. I didn't want to have another step or bricks or something.
Because she's getting old.
No, well, hey, all of you guys that haul bedding and food and everything else in and out of the coop, you know how nice it is not to have too many steps. We went ahead and did this. He accommodated me on a thicker slab so we could make it easier and not have to have a step.
So, location, thickness.
I would say that would be one of our other critical points, would be to consider the thickness of the slab. Why, you know, does it need to be thicker or is it okay to be thinner? Our cellar was fine to be thinner because it literally just had foot traffic on it getting in and out of the cellar. Over here, we also didn't need it very thick. For traffic, we would have left it thinner, except for I wanted that extra elevation because this ground is on a slope, and so one side of the pad is actually thicker than the other, but it's doggone 4 inches, you know, on the low side.
Neither one of these slabs has any kind of reinforced. We have no wire, we have no rebar, we have no fiberglass, we have nothing in either one of these slabs.
Right, that's another point. That's like point number 3 is does your location, does your slab, do you think it will need reinforcement? We chose not to reinforce. We have seen lots of people, you can use old fencing for reinforcement. People use traditionally like rebar for bigger slabs and stuff.
I have no idea. Maybe some of you concrete whisperers out there, you might know. Bag concrete, quickcrete, sackcrete, whatever you want to call it. Does age of those bags and storage location, does that have any bearing on how well this is going to turn out on a dry pour? Because the bags that we used over in the other spot, I picked those up at the box store, drove straight out, and we did it. When we did this, those bags had been sitting in my shop for probably close to a year.
Yeah, and now they weren't hard. They hadn't gotten wet or anything. They were up off of the floor, but
yeah, they were in the shop, so they were out of the elements. Yeah. But
we're curious to know, did it contribute to the flaws that we ended up having in this?
Which brings up another point. When you start to do a dry pour, buy a little extra.
Well, that's our number 4 point, and so he's getting ahead of me here. Point number 4 is anticipate the amount of materials. Now you're going to do your calculations. There's a lot of calculators online to help you determine how much concrete to buy for a specific job.
Yep. How
wide is it? How long is it? How deep is it? Did those calculations loosely, and I believe we figured on 10 bags would be more than what we needed for this particular job.
And we kind of eyeballed it.
Yeah, we didn't do a hard and fast.
Eyeball was not good.
We ended up having to scrape and grab and go find another 3 bags, I believe.
That could have been another factor of why we had some problems here, because those bags that we got, they were old. I mean, real old.
They could have been, yeah, and different brand.
And they were the quick, fast setting.
So either way, we underestimated the amount of concrete mix we were going to need, and I have, through kind of researching and watching other people's, we have found that a lot of people make that mistake also. I mean, you think you have it right.
Yeah, the majority of this
and you don't.
We've watched, they're always, well, I was 2 bags short, or I was a bag short.
And we ended up being quite a few bags, but either way, we failed to calculate that correctly. So that it could have just compounded some issues, I believe.
And it goes back the cure time. I thought it was cured, streaks of like white or light gray, which indicates that it's cured. Mm-hmm. But then you would come back a few days later, and this was also, when we did this, that's when Oklahoma was getting rains every few days.
Can you guys see the dark square that I'm standing on? It's because I have a rubber mat that I leave here in front of the coop, and I go in and out. Well, it holds the moisture. So right now, this concrete is wet, just like it had been rained on, to some little degree. But that's why it's dark right now. Normally, it's just regular, it looks like in front of Monty. What we ended up having was a lot of problems and flaking because we had so much rain, and that would be another tip on the cure time. Is it sunny? Is it in the shade? Is it raining? What are the temps? What are the temps outside? All of this plays a factor in the cure time. So what ended up happening? So back to kind of after our 5 points, our steps, what ended up happening along with the imperfections that we got when we pulled the forms off, and I'll show you this right now, y'all see where with lots of little cracks and stuff, and the corner, this particular corner over here by Monty, it did not hold up. It already started cracking when we took the form off, or we could see some little cracks in it. Well,
there was a crack right here, but that has,
we'll show you that.
that's kind of gone away, really.
Right, it really has not, nothing else has surfaced on this other than an ugly surface, but
And
the
this
corner. So Monty, he was moving a bag of concrete, and we're talking several weeks.
Yeah, and I
3 weeks
stepped
later, 2 weeks later.
right on that corner. And I was heavier back then.
It was heavier, but it broke and crumbled the corner.
To this day, it still looks green to me. And we did this in May.
It's been about 5 months now, possibly moving on to 6. It hasn't gotten any worse from that first month.
Yeah.
Of when we took the forms off of it, and we thought we were doing what needed to be done by leaving the forms on it for so long, but we just underestimated the cure time.
And I probably should have had more gravel pulled up against it, but
In all, we have decided to not tear this out at the time being, because it hasn't gotten any worse.
and it's serving the purpose that we wanted.
Right. It is definitely making it nice going in and out of the coop here.
So, to cover all the points that we've made in this 5-step, location also relates to cure time. Location and cure time, they kind of go hand in hand.
Consider thickness.
Yeah, thickness, well, they all play a part, I
They
guess.
all play a part in the cure time.
We're doing more dry pours in the future, folks.
Yes.
We are not giving up on this.
Nope. And we feel like this slab was pretty much our doing. It was our fault. It was our failures, not exactly the process of doing a drop pour.
We didn't have enough concrete here.
Nope.
And then we rushed it and didn't let it cure.
I don't think we felt like we rushed it. In hindsight, we did rush it because we just didn't realize that that it was taking so long to cure.
But I looked at it and it still looked green. But I thought 3 weeks, it's got to be dry.
Right.
Well,
and
that right there shows you that it wasn't.
Right. Okay, so basically
5 tips for success or failure. Your decision.
Exactly. So,
and I'll say it, we failed on this one.
This was a big dry pour fail for us.
It was our fault, but it wasn't a total loss because it's doing what we needed it to do.
It's doing what we wanted it to do. It just looks very ugly. And so that's something that we will definitely have to step up our game and work on, is functionality for sure, of getting it to cure and everything the way we want, but also to look good. Right now, we can pour these slabs pretty much anywhere we want, but if we want it to look good, like a sidewalk or something, we got to get better.
Yeah, I'm not ready to do sidewalks yet.
No, I mean, actually, we do have that on the agenda, a walkway to the deck, to the pool deck. But we're gonna pour a few more that won't be seen, and to give us a little bit better hands. And actually, Monty did bring up a great idea that we may want to do for you guys and for us too, is actually do a wet pour side by side with a dry pour. We have an area that we were kind of thinking about could be a possibility where we compare the two, and it would not be a traffic area for the most part at all, but have a wet pour and a dry pour go on basically at the same time, or one right after the other basically, and see which one holds up best.
Because we've done wet pours with the little concrete mixer, and it's a pain.
It is a lot of work, where the dry pour is so easy, but now we just have to get better at the dry pour. It's functioning. It's doing what I want it to do. It's doing what it needs to do. We just have a bad corner We have some flaking on the tops.
We don't have as much flaking here as we do over on the other one.
No, it's just not as light, and I'll show you, y'all can see that the flaking here. And
all the close-ups.
Yep. And so it's not the prettiest, and for whatever reason, there's lots of white marks on here. I don't know if it's scuffs from me dragging protein buckets, cleaning the bedding and stuff like that out, and I'm probably scuffing the top a little bit, and so it is taking some beating.
Yeah. Like
that. Tools and all that, but we wanted to bring you guys this update and to let you know what we have experienced and what we have learned. And it has not been all rosy, because when it comes out and it cracks on the corner or you knock a chunk off, your heart kind of sinks, and it's like, okay, well, we'll see how this goes.
Because I felt it under my foot when it gave way.
Yeah. Whether we're going to re-pour it, bust it all out and re-pour. Now that could be in the future. But right now, sorry, the sheep are distracting. They're hitting each other.
Yeah.
But in the future, should either of them so far really fail us and break,
if they start crumbling, we'll pull them apart. But
we'll pull them apart and then re-pour it.
But I don't see that happening, because
No, I'm pretty happy with this. So anyway, wanted you guys to see how it has transpired so far, how it's held up and how it has not held up.
And to help you on your dry pours.
Yep. Decide whether or not to do a dry pour, or just to know the pitfalls, know what can happen, learn from our mistakes.
Yeah. Learn from our successes and mistakes.
Mm-hmm. I had this titled Dry Pour Disaster because when this corner broke off, I felt like, oh, what a disaster, It has not gotten any worse. So it's okay. But that's what can happen, and I'm sure there's a ton of other things. Our first video, when we did our first one, we tried screeding it without a 2x4. We actually tried metal, and we had some long metal strips and stuff. You need that wood, you need that weight, and I think the wood, but that's in the first one, and I will link that first one and the second one up here in the corners, so you guys check them out and
watch all three.
Yeah, true. Give us your comments. Let us know if you have done dry pours or just wet pours. If you have comments or thoughts or ideas or questions, let us know, and we will definitely give you our heads up on that if we can. Yep. And anyway, thank you guys for sticking with us this far, if you've made it this far.
Hopefully you did. Because it really helps us out.
It does help us out. We'd love for you to like, subscribe, click the bells, notification, all that good stuff.
Yep.
And I guess we will see you on the next one.
See y'all.
See ya. Be blessed. Bye.